Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third day of International Nurses Week. It's great to have you all. And this is Nurses in Charge, of course. And I want to take this time for us to walk through the historical milestone that the nursing profession has achieved, and just to enlighten ourselves on the history of nursing education. And as we all know, this is very essential. We wouldn't be nurses today if we weren't educated. But let us just look at the legacy that the nursing profession has led. That we are really benefiting from it today. I was about to say enjoying, but yeah, in a sense, we enjoy the nursing education today because of the pioneers who have come and set the mark and raised the bars and standardized education for nurses globally. So this presentation I am about to start, it really goes over, it is a global overview of um, the historical milestone of nursing education. Okay, here we are. And I want to appreciate everyone that has taken time out to be here today for this presentation. And also those who are watching this presentation later on. This is 2025, and Nurses Week is charged with so many activities, and this is one of them. So this is the presentation I prepared for you all. A review of nursing education, global history and timeline. Nurses in Charge, Incorporated. My name is Dr. Nyepu Kimu, founder of Nurses in Charge. And again, it is my profound pleasure to be here today to give us some overview of what the nursing education has come true over the years. Here we go. So welcome to this presentation on the historical overview on the historical and evolution of nursing education, a journey that spans centuries, continents, and cultures. Today, we explore how nursing, once rooted in informal caregiving and religious services, has transformed into a respected, evidence-based, and globally unified profession. From Florence Nightingale's revolutionary work in the 19th century to the digital classrooms and doctoral programs of the 21st century, nursing education has continuously adapted to meet the ever-changing needs of society, healthcare systems, and global health priorities. Understanding this history is more than a reflection. It is a call to leadership and innovation. As nurses, educators, advocates, we inherit not only the legacy of service, but also the responsibility to shape the future of nursing through the knowledge, mentorship, and global collaboration. So just walk with me through the imprint of history. Starting in, actually, let me get my pen out. It will definitely help guide us as I point to. Okay, usually this works best. All right, forget that. Let's just go through it. Starting from the right, your right, we start with the pre-19th century era, informal caregiving and religious orders. Ancient times up to the 1700s. Nursing care was rooted in religious institutions, military, and home-based care. Then we come to the 1800s to the 1900s, an entire century. We see that the birth of modern nursing education from 1854 to 1856, we see the Crimean War. In 1860, we see the Nightingale Training School for nurses being established. Then in the late 1800s, nursing schools opened across Europe and North America. So when I come to this point, I wonder, were there nursing schools in Africa, in Asia, in other parts of the world that is not being mentioned by this study? But I'll leave that question for you. Please do comment about this if you have any keen knowledge about the historical landmark of nursing education in your region. So moving to the third column, we see here that in between 1900 to 1950, there were institutions and professionalization. That's the era, and we start with 1901, state regulation for nurses. 1916, by 1916, the American Nurses Association was established. Then from 1920s to the 1930s, we see university-based nursing education being established. And then within this entire, the span of 1920s to 1930s, we see clinical skill and academic knowledge. Also, the World War I and II also had an influence on nursing education.
Yeah.
Welcome to the presentation. Please do use the comment section to write anything that you would like to contribute to the presentation. There will be times that I will stop and we will have a discussion. I'm pleased to have you. Thank you. So we see that World War II and World War I and II had an increase in demand for trained nurses globally. And then our last column here, I believe this is orange on the tab, academic expansion and regulation. This is 1950s to 1960s, 10 years span, enough to have initiated the Associate Degree Nursing, ADN, Bachelor's Degree Nurse, Bachelor's of Science in Nursing, BSN, in the US and Europe. And whenever I come to a tab that talks about US and Europe and there are no other regions that nurses in charge, our organization represents 5 continents. It's stopping for a moment. I take a pause and wonder, were there any form of higher education in nursing in these regions? So again, if you do know your history, take a moment to just enlighten us and let us know if you do know of the establishment of any higher education in this era. So from the 1970s to 1980s, we see that licensure and accreditation and standardization was the main focus of this era as well. And then we have the Universal Nursing Education Framework being instituted. Okay, moving to our next slide. All right, so this brings us closer and closer to our current timeline. From 1980 to the year 2000, we see an advanced practice and globalization begin the joy of the day or the joy of the era. We see that graduate level education really started. This is at least some 40 years ago. So just think of that. And this may just cause some of us to our age and say, oh, I was born during this time. So Doctor of Nursing Practice, woohoo, that's my area, and PhD programs were also established during this time. We see also the last bullet is continuing professional development. Standards got instituted in the 1980s to 2000. All right, so now we're getting closer, it's getting warmer. We see that in 2000 to the present time, the focus has been global harmonization and digital transformation. So put in a comment if any of these resonate with you, and yeah, share your knowledge. So from 2002 to the present time, I have a daughter that was born 2002, so hey, listen out, girl. She's in nursing school too, so this should bring her some joy. So from 2002 to present time, WHO, World Health Organization, and ICN, International Confederate of Nursing, they started a competency-based curricula and regulatory harmonization. And then we have online and distant learning in nursing programs coming right along. I have been a benefactor of most of these programs in the era of online learning. It's so flexible. You can do so much more and still learning and continue to learn. And then we see evidence-based practice being initiated, and truly we see the next bullet down is that interpersonal education, simulation-based learning. That is what I'm teaching currently at the university here in Florida. I love simulation. It just helps us to make all the mistakes on the patient that won't die. This patient never dies, so I love it. And then we have the global health competencies being instituted as well. I love the term global, because I am truly passionate about nursing education being standardized globally. Never again should nurses in Africa, in parts of Asia and other parts of the world being behind on nursing education. That we should all have a standardization that truly brings us all to a baseline where we have the same measures of academia achievements there. So post 2010, we see universal health coverage and sustainable development goals being instituted. And next bullet is the global standards. I was impressed to see Liberia, Kenya, India, and the Philippines expanding formal nursing education. Now, with nurses in charge, we have members from places like Cameroon, Nigeria. These are the well-developed countries. And my impression now is to really question, did these countries ever start any standardization of nursing education. And I want to believe they did, but it has not crossed over to the literatures. And that is one passion of mine, that exploring nursing legacies throughout the world. And this is when I established the NIC Tour project, which back in November of 2024, I went to Liberia and had the privilege of working with universities in Liberia, and truly, I left with so much information and knowledge, and just respect for the nursing profession in Liberia. And we're looking to go to other countries as well. So this really helps us to unveil the rich history of nursing in every part of the world, and truly put it out there so others can know and add it to the literatures, so that when we have such a presentation, we're not only talking about Liberia, Kenya, and India, and or the Philippines, but we have a longer list of other countries that have contributed to nursing education up to date. Then we have the infamous COVID-19 pandemic also had an impact on nursing education. It accelerated virtual learning. Remember when we first spoke on virtual learning, we were looking at in the year 2000, online and distant learning in nursing programs were established. But now, during the pandemic, I actually have nursing students that graduated at the beginning of the pandemic, or they were graduating in the midst of the pandemic. And when I taught at the university here in Florida, I remember we were doing virtual clinicals. Imagine that, doing virtual clinicals on Zoom. So that we had to adopt. You talk about the adaptation theory in nursing. Listen, it came alive during this time. Surely came alive. So I'll stop here and see, this is my question. When did nursing education begin in your region? Audience participation. Is there anyone out there that knows, that has a keen knowledge, of nursing education in your country? Please contribute. There's a learning section. I'm intrigued to know. Oh, Professor Elvis, thank you so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure to have you on such a call. Do you have any questions, comments, anything you want to add to this presentation from the timeline that we've discussed?
Hello, Dr. Nyefo. Once more, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Happy Nurses Week.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to connect again. I'm glad you are having this kind of presentation again. And in my midst here, I have some students who have been celebrating Nurses Day.
Nice.
To showcase what they have been doing. It's great to have the type of presentation which is on the historical events and the evolution of nursing up to where we are now.
Yes.
It is. I'm listening keenly to the evolution of nursing in other countries in the US, and I think comparing to the historical events that led to the development of nursing in Cameroon and to the evolution of nursing itself, we have evolved a great deal in terms of academic evolution, but we still have challenges in terms of patient care. So there's still that gap with training and bedside nursing. There's still that gap with training and using evidence-based in practice. We evolved from the historical events of the nurse as the handmaid of the medical doctors in Cameroon due to the way that nursing was actually inserted in Cameroon. And I think it is almost the same thing in other sub-Saharan African countries because of religion as the means, you know, with us, the faith-based organization first arrived in sub-Saharan Africa. And because of infectious conditions, diseases that were occurring in those days, nurses nurses evolved from midwifery actually, because we had because we had midwife as the main profession when it came to taking care of patients. And that's why the historical conferences that we had in Africa, like the Lusaka conference, the Bamako initiative, they led to some of the public health initiatives that we have up to today. We have had challenges, as I said, but there is quite a great deal of evolution. We are now training nurses academically in universities, but in those days we had trainings that were just diploma trainings. Even up to now, we still have diploma trainings in Cameroon, and that's the trouble we have. Also in Cameroon, we have control of nursing training, which is in the hands of, you have the Ministry of Public Health, you have the Ministry of Higher Education. These ministries, they are different grades of nurses that they train. And that's where we also have gaps in practice because the standards are not established. So you don't know what the ministry, those trained by the Ministry of Public Health, they have to do. You don't know what those who are trained by the Ministry of Higher Education, they have to do. And this gives a lot of confusion in terms of practice. Notwithstanding, I think we need to institute some initiatives where we have to close those gaps. You have the inborn of so many schools, private schools, that want to be training nurses, but these trainings, they are not in line.
They're not standardized. Woo.
Exactly. You can't solve the problems of taking care of patients by increasing the number of schools that are training nurses. And when you look at those who are training the nurses in our context, you find some people who are not even working, like practically they are not oriented. How do you train somebody of a practical field without you having the practical skills? So this is a big issue when it comes to training of nurses in Cameroon.
Yeah.
So see, I think right now, where countries like the United States started the problems that they discovered and started the reorientation of their training programs, it looks like we are instead going back to the problems that the US had in those days. Yes. This is a big problem. This is a big issue. So we actually need some initiatives to be able to close these gaps, because already you have nurses who are trained by the Ministry of Higher Education, you have nurses who are trained by the Ministry of Public Health, but we have to practice. Everybody is practicing. So how do we close this gap? How do we ensure that we upgrade the skills of these people who are trained? Sometimes you see someone coming to the field without the necessary basic skills.
But they are your co-workers, and
exactly,
you have patient load with them. Oh goodness! But I tell you, Professor Elvis, that and maybe this will help you understand that the problem that the U.S. has worked on in centuries ago, they're still existing. There are still schools in the U.S. that get shut down because they are not standardized. They are not meeting the requirements set by nursing education boards. And when they go and evaluate these schools, students are not passing their NCLEX, which is that final exam we take. And the rate goes higher, and now it calls for an audit. And once they audit these schools and find out that students are really getting the bare minimum of education, of nursing education, then you're not qualified to remain. So I've attended some of these meetings, And the schools were just next door. And I thought they were legitimate. Just to come find out, no, they are instituting a fast-paced education, reaping so many dollars and thousands of dollars from nursing students. But when these students graduate, the school may not be accredited, because every school must be accredited by nursing institutions that are the regulatory bodies. And if your school is like you and I, we collaborate. Hey, Mr. Elvis, let's go start a school. Just because we're nursing professionals, we have the expertise. It calls for us to be accredited by these governing bodies so that they can come do a check and balance and make sure we're doing the right thing. And quite often, students are paying so much money, the school is not accredited. And one of the downfall of that is that if a student graduates from some of these independent schools that are not accredited, now that student cannot go to higher education because it requires for them to show that the school was accredited. And if that school was not accredited, that means they were not standardized. They were not working according to the nursing education board standards. So then students thought that these schools were legitimate. They come to find they spend thousands of dollars for their education, but now they cannot move forward. They are stuck within the associate degree or just the practical license, the LPN, we say practical licensed practical nurse. That is all they get. They have to go back if they want to go to BSN, masters. They have to start again at another school from the beginning. They have to start from the baseline, and it hurts because money does not grow on trees, even though we use trees to make money. But you get it. So yeah, we still have those problems today in the US of A's. So if that gives you some comfort, Cameroon is not the only place. Liberia has worse problems. When I spoke with universities and I received a list of 27 schools of nursing in Liberia. Out of 27, there were at least 5 schools that have been shut down because they did not meet the requirements. So, and then I was able to visit, and truth be told, I was still willing to go to those schools that got shut down so I can learn as to why, and how is it we can mitigate these problems so these schools can open, because they were in regions that really needs a school. They need a school because they're far off from the capital city, and students are there and they have already graduated, some students, but sometimes they don't meet all the requirements. And sometimes it's political as well. So I learned a lot. My journey to Liberia, I just really wanted to know my own country before I go into Cameroon, Nigeria. This way I have a strong background of my own country that I can compare to other parts of the world, other schools. So yeah, thank you so much. We just had someone join us. Someone's on the iPhone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're on a conversation about nursing education, the legacies in past time, global legacy of nursing education. All righty. Could you please introduce yourself? Who's on the iPhone? We'd love to know you. Okay. Professor Elvis, did you have anything else to add before I go to?
No, not quite. I just want to encourage the great job that you are doing, and I hope we can find solutions to the problems we face. We will not be able to solve all the problems existing everywhere, but with the the togetherness, with the partnerships that we build, we can be able to capacitate the young ones who are coming up to close the gap between of the problems that we are talking about. We will not go, and as you said, some of the problems are political, and we are not politicians, so we cannot go to solve political problems. But I think we can, yes, we can solve problems when it comes to patient care, when it comes to taking care of ourselves and our colleagues. So it is it's a great deal, and as I told you, you could say hi to the students I have in class.
Absolutely. Hey, let me stop.
And I think
sharing.
They should be able to join the global network of the nurses in charge. Yeah. So
awesome.
So you can see
an entire classroom full of brilliant minds. Oh my goodness. Yes. Hi guys. Hello, 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 hello. Oh my goodness, yes. You're beautiful. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Congratulations for your nursing education. Awesome, awesome. Now I can retire and you all can take my space and come into the work and come into the workspace. This is amazing.
Okay. Thank you, and I'll plead to leave. We still have some time to continue our discussions, and hopefully I've been working on some things, and I'll share with you as soon as everything is ready, and we can work on those things. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you so much. God bless you for your work you're doing out there.
Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you. Happy Nurses
Bye-bye.
Week again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Awesome. You just made my day to see a classroom full of nursing students. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, whoever is on the iPhone, feel free to join the conversation. I did the previous slides. It was just going through the timeline, and now I'm using each timeline to really give you a meat on the bone of nursing education globally. The legacies of the legacy of nursing education. So we see that the pre-19th century was focused on informer caregiving and religious orders. We see that ancient times from, I would say, 1600s to the 1700s. From my research, I found that nursing, historical nursing goes really started in the 1600s. I couldn't find anything before that. So yes, so let's speak on this. So nursing care was primarily informal and rooted in family structures, religious institutions, and military services. There were these trained nurses were used and worked and I would say utilized to work in these areas. So one would be taking care of their families, and or there were religious institutions, churches, missionaries, conventions, convention centers, and of course, even in the forefront of battles, there were nurses there picking up the wounded. We speak on the Crimean War, and there were other wars, World War I, World War II, really demanded later on in the 1800s, as we were seeing in other slides coming up. All right, so we see that religious figures like Phoebe, who is mentioned in the Bible, Hildegard, Bingen, and nuns and monks provided care. So they were functioning in the roles of a nurse. So in many in many regions, nursing was viewed as a charitable, often low status role of women. Can you believe that? So this is before the 1800s, in the 1700s. put your comments in the put your comments in the chat room, and I will stop for a moment at some point for us to have a discussion. So from 1800 to 1900, we see the birth of modern nursing education. So 1854 to 1856, a span of what, 2 years? We see the Crimean War, where Florence Nightingale emerges as the pioneer of modern nursing by emphasizing hygiene, sanitation, and organization. By the 1860s, we see that Florence Nightingale established her nursing school, the training school for nurses, opened at St. Thomas in London, St. Thomas Hospital in London, the first scientifically based nursing school. It just brings chills to my body to see where we've come from, and she's establishing her school already. From the Crimean War, she realized from her observation and experiences with working with these nurses, she realized these are members of society that really need further training. After she had gotten trained, she realized that she needed to give back. So the late 1800s, we see that nursing schools opened across Europe and North America. Places like Bellevue Hospital, School of Nursing in New York, that was in 1873. And our last bullet here says that training was hospital-based, focused on apprenticeships, discipline, and bedside care. Then we come to 1900 to 1950. Institutionalization and professionalization. This was the core for this era. We see in New Zealand in 1901, New Zealand becomes the first country to receive state regulation for nurses. In 1916, the American Nurses Association begins advocating for nursing education standards. Let's standardize nursing education so that Nyepu is not doing what she feels like doing. Someone else is not opening their school and just doing what they feel like because they are they are in their zone of geniuses. No, the American Nurses Association said, let us standardize nursing education. Then in 1920s and 1930s, we see university-based nursing education begins in places like Yale School of Nursing in 1923. Then nursing started to be viewed as a profession, needing both clinical skills and academic knowledge. So you see today where we have the didactic component of nursing education, and then is complemented with a clinical section where they go out into the real world in hospitals, nursing homes. And I would love for clinical sections to be in the correction centers, prisons where nurses also work. How do we just venture out to go to work there if we've never had any pre-knowledge? So that's one passion of mine as well. So we see that that World War I and II also came along with an increased demand for trained nurses globally. Nursing education expanded rapidly in this era. It's like a wildfire. Once you start fueling it, it grows. All right. So then we have the 1950s to, all right, I had to see my heading. From the 1950s to 1980s, we see academic expansion and regulation. So that takes us from 1950 to 1960. We see the emergence of associate degree nursing, baccalaureate degree programs in the US were established. So our ADN programs go way back to the 1950s and 60s. So similarly, we see that there was transition that began in Canada, Australia, and other parts of Europe. Where is Africa? Where is Asia? So we see that the ADM programs and BSN programs started also within this time frame. 1970s to 1980s, we see the global push for licensure, accreditation, and standardization in nursing education. The nursing education increasingly moved out of hospitals into colleges and universities in the 1970s and 80s. Lastly, the international organizations like ICN and WHO began to promote universal nursing school framework. So not to only have the nursing school framework in the Americas and Europe, but also to make it universal. That's a beautiful thing to do because you find nurses everywhere around the world. And then here from the 1980s to 2000, there is an advanced practice and globalization. Okay, get it back. Advanced practice and globalization was the focus, has been the focus of this era, meaning that they had the growth of graduate level nursing really gave birth during this time. Like the Masters of Science in Nursing, nurse practitioner, clinical nurse managers, you name it, certified, registered nurses program, all of these, right? Critical care nurse, registered nurses program, CRN, came about. And then we see the introduction of that Doctor of Nursing practice, and the PhD programs also started. We are speaking on the time span of 20 years now, 20, 25 years, give and take, when advanced practice nursing started and was instituted. And again, if you go to the heading of this slide, you see where it talks about globalization. So not keeping it in one country, but making it global. Lastly, our last bullet here says global exchange of partnership growth, such as the Western countries training nurses from developing countries. Amazing. We've had nurses come over to the US that I know of to earn their masters. It's really hard to see universities receiving nurses on in the undergraduate levels. I would love to know which universities, because I have members of nurses in charge who are interested to truly come abroad and get higher education this way as well. I often tell them, from the master's degree, if you want to earn your master's degree, once you have a BSN, I know of universities that would take them. So if you know of any university in your region that accepts nursing students for undergraduate programs, please let us know. So ladies and gentlemen, now we're coming closer to the current time. From 2000 to the present, we see our focus has been global harmonization and digital transformation, where we see that from 2002 to the present time, the WHO and ICN have made initiatives promoting competency-based curricula and regulatory harmonization. This all means that there is an expansion of online and distant learning for nurses. So these nursing programs erupted and in the year 2000 to the present time, and it's growing rapidly, seriously. I have been one of the benefactors, I believe I said that before, of online education. As a mother, a wife, and working full-time, I earned a lot of my degrees online, at least from my master's to my DNP. It was all online for me. It gave me that flexibility to still work, take care of my family, and still have time to learn and elevate myself. So if you want to know how I did it, I'd love to just share some nuggets there. So increasing emphasis on evidence-based practice, interprofessional education, simulation-based learning, and global health competencies. So when it comes to the simulation-based learning, that is where I'm teaching currently. I did simulation-based learning in my graduate studies. I was just a graduate aide, so it was not something I was superb in, but currently I'm learning so much more and educating nursing students in the sim lab. I love it because listen, in the sim lab, you can kill the patient 400, 500 times, but moving beyond the sim lab, those patients are alive and they should not be harmed. And I love evidence-based practice research. This is one of the arms of our professional development programs in Nurses in Charge. So check it out on our website, nursesincharge.org. In this program, really, we're recruiting researchers to join us. Even if you've never done research, come along. You will have a mentor to guide you. Alrighty, so post to 2010, we see that the focus has been global harmonization and digital transformation. This also falls under the previous slide. This is just a continuum. So we see that universal health coverage and sustainable development goals has been instituted for position nurses as frontline health advocates. Listen, we do so much more, and I'm so happy to see that we're being recognized for that, for such a title, advocates. Speak on that, we do it in our sleeps, okay? So, and then we see countries like Liberia, and guys, being from Liberia, I was so happy. I got warm to the heart when I saw that Liberia is in the literature. And for what now? It says that countries like Liberia, Kenya, India, and the Philippines they have expanded formal nursing education in line with global standards. So Liberia, Kenya, India, and the Philippines are saying we need to standardize our nursing education based on the global standards. Because listen, there are still schools. Professor Elvis and I were just speaking on that. He's in Cameroon. He was just telling me that there are schools. So in Cameroon, they have the public health, the Ministry of Health, and independent schools just trying to regulate nursing education at their own pace. So the rhythm is not jiving. There are gaps that need to be closed so that it can be all standardized. And listen, that just calls for an NIC project. So we see that now COVID-19, this infamous COVID-19, had an impact also on nursing education from the year 2020 to 2022. We see that it says the literature speaks on the fact that COVID-19 accelerated the use of virtual learning. It raised urgency for investing in nursing education and workforce. So put in a comment section if during COVID-19 you were in nursing school and you had to do your clinicals online. I did teach some of those sections at at UCF in Florida here, where nursing students, we did not want them to just drop out of their programs during COVID. They have already completed their didactics, and we needed to ensure them, ensure their clinical, their clinical learning section. So we definitely went on in the virtual space to do nursing clinicals there. Talk about challenge, talk about adapting to a new system. That was amazing. Excuse me, I need to wet my whistles. After talking so much, I need to wet it. And then last slide here, we speak on the key global trends today. We see that globally, there's a shift towards the BSN as entry level. Listen, this conversation started when I was in nursing school, and it hit us like a tornado. They said, what? A BSN degree? Actually, during that time, I'm speaking on some 25 years ago, that coming in the next 10 years, BSN will be the entry level for nurses. And we said, wow, okay, we're in our BSN program. But then we would just fall into adherence to this standardization. So in many regions, such as the US, Canada, and parts of Africa, the BSN degree has now become the entry level of nursing education. So meaning that those who have an associate, or before an associate, they have a diploma or degree where they learn at the bedside, hospitals educate them. And then those who have associate degrees, that's not an entry level. They are under the benchmark being set. So we see that there is an emphasis on primary care, community health, and mental health. And by the way, happy mental health a month. This entire month of May is designated for mental health. Mental health education, recognizing mental illnesses, and all of that. So the curricula on primary care, community health, and mental health has emerged into nursing education. And there is a global movement for nursing leadership, gender equality, and professional autonomy. So on this part, nursing leadership, we're going into those who want to be nursing managers, those who want to be executive leaders at their hospitals, and also they may be establishing an entrepreneur role and stepping out of the clinical segments and going out and standing alone, having a standalone practice. And that also coincides with nurse practitioners who are establishing their own practices, right? They either co-partner with other nurse practitioners or with doctors and practice independently that way as well. Then we see, that's the professional autonomy there. So either in business or some form of some form of advanced practice nursing. That's the word I was looking for. So gender equality really goes into all of the areas of gender-based definition, gender-based care that also is a category of its own. So we see that becoming very much embedded into the cares we provide today. And lastly, there's a growing recognition for nurses as educators, researchers, policymakers, and global health leaders. And if you look on Nurses in Charge website, you'll find that we are in line with all of these demands, because we believe that if we can institute these areas with our members, they are well equipped to fit anywhere. The area of education, the area of research, and the mentorship that we're going through really walks into aligning our members with either policymakers that they can do apprenticeship with them, and those who truly just want to work along with someone who has already been in that area of transition. That helps them, that mentor helps guide them, okay? So, and I can't speak I can't speak too much more about global health leadership, because as a nurse in charge, you are in charge. Be that leader in your region. Be that leader that can transcend beyond your region and truly impact the world at large. Alrighty, any questions? I'll stop here. This is actually the end of our presentation. I'll be stopping the sharing. I'll stop sharing so we can have some conversation. I want to thank you all for joining today. Wait no longer, okay? Join the Nurses in Charge revolution to connect, celebrate, and empower nursing professionals globally. And you can do that just with one tap, right? NursesInCharge.org. Go into that website, sign up to become a member, join the communities, and let your journey begin with us. We're all here learning from each other. As the Bible says, iron sharpens iron. So you cannot be a rubber and you sharpen a rubber. We know that every nurse possess so much more in them. God has given all of us talents. God has given all of us opportunities to learn. No matter if you're just in nursing school or up to the level of doctoral level of nursing education, and or you're no longer practicing, listen, we're here to bridge the gap between all nursing professionals so that we can truly impact each other, level up, and have a better professional, have a better career trajectory. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the screen share now and come back to see if we can do some discussion on anything I've said that resonated with you. It may be a question, it may be just commenting, adding value to what have been said already. Hello, are you there?
Me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today. It has been amazing to have members of Nurses in Charge, sponsors, supporters, partners of Nurses in Charge come along to have a conversation. It was amazing to see that Professor Elvis was in his classroom full of brilliant minds of nursing students, and he had the opportunity to join the conversation, and he even showed his camera for me to see the entire class. He made my day, for real. I bless God for him. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Come back again and let us have a better conversation. Shoot me an email to thenursesinCharge@gmail.com. thenursesinCharge@gmail.com. Let me know any information that we need to add to our presentation that represents your region, that represents your area of practice, especially in the sense of nursing education, and other topics that will be coming down this week. For Nurses Week, we want you to participate. We want you to share the links, share the recordings with others you know, so that we can all learn together, so that we can all have a sense of a global understanding of where the nursing profession has come through. So thank you so much again. You have a blessed day and see you around the block.